Greetings to all of you, my dear sisters and brothers and my dear friends. A warm welcome to all of you from your Pastor Eddie. We start a new week in the 52 greatest stories of the Bible, a devotional study. And in this week, we're going to read with each other the book of Ruth. There are 4 chapters, and every day we're going to read a chapter. And for today, it is a pagan widow gets it right. This is your Pastor Eddie. So our Monday story. Let's start reading the first chapter of the book of Ruth. Long ago, during the time the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man named Elimelech left the town of Bethlehem in Judah. He, his wife, and his 2 sons moved to the country of Moab. The man's wife was named Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Mahlon and Kilion. They were from the Ephrathah family of Bethlehem in Judah, and the name Bethlehem, translated, is bread house. The family traveled to the hill country of Moab and stayed there. Later, Naomi's husband Elimelech died, so only Naomi and her 2 sons were left. Her sons married women from the country of Moab. One wife's name was Orpah, and the other wife's name was Ruth. They lived in Moab about 10 years. Then Mahlon and Kilion also died. And so Naomi was left alone without her husband and her 2 sons. While Naomi was in the country of Moab, she heard that the Lord had helped his people. He had given food to his people in Judah. So Naomi decided to leave the hill country of Moab and go back home. Her daughters-in-law also decided to go with her. They left the place where they had been living and started walking back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi told her daughters-in-law, "Each of you should go back home to your mother. You have been very kind to me and my sons who are now dead. So I pray that the Lord will be just as kind to you. I pray that the Lord will help each of you find a husband and a good home." Naomi kissed her daughters-in-law, and they all started crying. Then the daughter said, "But we want to come with you and go to your family." But Naomi said, "No, daughters, go back to your own homes. Why should you go with me? I can't have any more sons to be your husbands. Go back home. I am too old to have a new husband. Even if I thought I could be married again, I could not help you. If I became pregnant tonight and had 2 sons, you would have to wait until they grew to become men before you could marry them. I cannot make you wait that long for husbands. That would make me very sad. And I am already sad enough. The Lord has done many things to me." So again they cried very much. Then Orpah kissed Naomi goodbye, but Ruth hugged her and stayed. Naomi said, "Look, your sister-in-law is going back to her own people and her own gods. You should do the same." But Ruth said, "Don't force me to leave you. Don't force me to go back to my own people. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you sleep, I will sleep. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and that is where I will be buried. I ask the Lord to punish me if I don't keep this promise. Only that will separate us. The homecoming. Naomi saw that Ruth wanted very much to go with her. So Naomi stopped arguing with her. Naomi and Ruth traveled until they came to the town of Bethlehem. And when the two women entered Bethlehem, all the people were very excited. And they said, "This is Naomi. Is this Naomi?" But Naomi told the people, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. Use this name because God, all-powerful, has made my life very sad. I had everything I wanted when I left, but now the Lord brings me home with nothing. The Lord has made me sad, so why should you call me happy? God all-powerful has given much trouble to me." So Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth, the Moabite, came back from the hill country of Moab. These two women came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. This is chapter 1. So we have our Monday story. God promised that Abraham's descendants would bless the rest of the world. But they didn't always cooperate. God, however, is not easily dissuaded from his plans and frequently comes up with the most inventive ways of continuing to push the story forward, even when things seem to have stopped completely. The judges of Israel were used in powerful ways, but they were often terrible people with a total lack of impulse control. They were arrogant and violent and stubborn and rebellious. And the people followed their leaders well. In the end, the Israelites looked an awful lot like the Canaanites' neighbors. What was God to do? His people he meant to make into a special nation and insists on being like the motley crowd around them. So God went on, found someone else. Her name was Ruth, and she was a Moabite. She married a Jewish man who had moved to Moab with his parents and brother because of a famine in their homeland. But then tragedy struck. All the men in the family died, leaving 3 widows behind. Ruth, her Moabite sister-in-law Orpha, and her Jewish mother-in-law Naomi. These 2 Moabite women had never entered the, special blessing that is a Jewish widow. I'm going to change my name to bitter, because that's exactly how I feel. God has been bitter to me. I'm going to be bitter to everyone else. For some reason, Ruth decided to stick it out with this woman. And Orpha chose to stay behind while Ruth took Naomi. What a fun trip that must have been. Now in those days, wealthy landowners often left portions of their fields unharvested so that widows and other needy people could pick the grain and have some food without having to beg. It was while Ruth was availing herself of this local custom that she caught the eye of a man named Boaz, who also happened to be a relative of Naomi's. Boaz liked what he saw and asked his workers to be a little extra sloppy when picking the fields so that Ruth wouldn't have to work too hard to find food. Naomi told Ruth, "I think he's warm for your form." That's a paraphrase you won't even read in the message. Ruth made a forward pass that Boaz caught, and they all lived happily ever after. Oh, and it turns out that bitter turns sweet awful fast when there's a grandchild involved. But we're going to read further tomorrow in the second chapter of the book of Ruth. So, yeah. It's a beautiful story. And very powerful in the words that Ruth is using. Your God will be my God, and where you go I will go, and much more. And she made a commitment and really didn't know that God. She was hungry to become to know that God, the God of Israel. A beautiful story with a beautiful future. So may the Almighty God bless you in your day. And think about the words of Ruth. Or maybe you have to read them when she said to Naomi, "I'm coming with you. Your God is my God. I'm following you. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people." Let him bless you. And the ones close to your side. And your brothers and sisters. Peace be with you, my dear ones. This is your Pastor Yeti. Bye.